Welcome to Big Fan Reviews. In order to avoid spoilers of the actual story of the game, I will be leaving out any recordings of the story. All I will say is that the story is pretty compelling. It wouldn't win any Oscars, but is still a fun little adventure I think you should at the very least watch on YouTube if you cannot or do not intend to get the game. With that out of the way, what is Monster Hunter Stories 2? Monster Hunter Stories 2: Wings of Ruin, an obvious sequel to the Monster Hunter Stories game that released on the 3DS. It is a monster capture game like Pokemon. However, there are some differences that make Monster Hunter Stories 2 its own type of game, and may even be better, depending on who you ask, than Pokemon. In Pokemon, you capture Pokemon in battles, then force them to attack and then chunk mechanical balls that zap the opponent Pokemon, encaging them where they are too weak and submit to their new master. With Monster Hunter Stories 2, it's quite a bit different in the sense of you do not have mechanical devices to cage the monster and bring back with you to do your bidding. Instead, to obtain monsters or monsties, you must snatch the unborn children from the home, hoping their parents do not notice you, and of course, if they do, slaughter them for the sake of taking care of their child as your own, leveling it up, buffing its abilities, and then eventually sacrificing it for your much stronger children that you kidnapped in an endless cycle of abduction. It's pretty great, trust me. Gameplay-wise, Stories has two forms of gameplay. One I like to classify as battling, and the other one as roaming. Battling will have a turn-based combat, where you control the actions of you and occasionally order your monster to do specific attacks. There is a rock-paper-scissors mechanic that is more prevalent than other turn-based games and is its main focus that will depict whether you win or lose. The three forms you will be using is power, speed, and technical. When choosing either of the three, your opponent will also do the same. If they target you or an ally for an attack, the winner of the exchange or head-to-head will deal extra damage. However, will still take damage. There is a chance of you or the opponent doing a double attack where either one of you team up with an ally and attack at once, canceling the opposing attacker's attack. It's very useful and only works if the same attack type is chosen, but isn't always guaranteed. Skills also have attack types. However, they also have special types that have more priority during the attack, whether it's a team buff or an AoE shot from a bow. Items have the highest priority and cannot be stopped unless you afflict them with a special ailment. As a monster rider, you have the ability to order your monstie to use specific moves that may aid the team better. Without your orders though, the monster will do its own thing and choose what it thinks is the best choice at the time. Every monstie does have a specific type when the attacking normally. A monstie with only power moves and is power type itself will be unable to do speed or technical attacks, so be careful. You can switch out monsties once per turn, and the same goes with three specific weapons you choose to arm yourself with. As you and your monstie attack, a gauge known as Kinship Gauge will build up, and once full, you can ride your monstie to either use a powerful move known as Kinship that cancels the opponent's next move, or continue to attack to charge the level of the move for a more devastating attack. And much like double attacks, if your partner uses the Kinship, you will both do a double kinship attack that does a devastating amount of damage. Enemy monsties will occasionally have parts with separate life bars you can attack, whether it's the head, the tail, or even wings. By breaking these parts, you will continue to be rewarded by knocking them down for a turn or some more damage on the monster. Or at the end of battle, you may get material from the parts that you destroyed. The type of weapon you use will depend on what is most effective. There are slash, blunt, and ranged. These are the three types of weapon types to use, and each one has two types of weapons to use. Slash Greatsword and Sword and Shield. Greatsword is a massive weapon that deals big damage and has mechanic of bars that fills up by using its skills and then using the charged bars for a big AoE attack. Sword and Shield is a smaller weapon that is easier to use, as every skill costs less and it's easy to fill the kinship gauge. Deals less damage but can block more than most of their weapons. Blunt, Hammer, and Hunting Horn. Hammer is a heavy weapon that rivals the Greatsword with damage, but is focused more on dealing damage to parts rather than the health. By winning head-to-heads, you charge up a hammer gauge that you spend on skills for more effective attacks to destroy the enemy's limbs. Hunting Horn, primarily known as a support weapon in older Monster Hunter titles, truly does become a support type, or, on some occasion, the Saboteur. Every different Hunting Horn has its own list of buffs and really makes you choose melodies over damage most of the time. Ranged, Bows and Gunlance. Bows are the least hitting weapon, if used normally, but can become the most useful if used correctly. With a free skill charge, you use up a turn to fill a gauge that will allow your next turn to fire off a second arrow, making up for the turn and also making the damage significantly better than if you were to fire the arrow that turn. Bows are unique in the sense that they each have their own shot type: spread, piercing, and rapid, along with the status ailment coding skills. A charged spread shot will do an AoE attack. A charged rapid attack will have you firing multiple arrows at the opponent, and a charged pierce attack will hit through certain armor types. Gunlance is a big boy weapon, where every turn you attack, you charge up a gauge of shells, and as it gets bigger, more skills become accessible, until you're able to use the entire gauge for an explosive attack. Winning head-to-heads will fill the gauge more. Every weapon can have an element type, and certain weapons will have skills you can use. During certain points in the game, you will be required to use items known as Cool or Hot Mist. If you don't, there will be occasions where the party wastes a turn shivering or sweating. There is a way to run away from most fights. If you see runaway available, it's 100% guaranteed. Roaming is the biggest part of the game. Believe it or not, roaming is where you will be the majority of the time you're playing, especially when you finish the game for endgame material. You will start off by creating your character and then sending them out into the world, following the story and running around collecting Monstie eggs to hatch. Simple. You find Monsties walking around and even ride your partners for faster travel. Each Monstie has specific roaming skills such as swimming, breaking rocks, digging, or even dashing. You will use each skill to traverse and collect chests in the maps, but it's mostly unneeded to finish the story. As you're roaming the open world, you will also be collecting everything off the ground. Bugs, plants, rocks, and bones. Just keep grabbing, because you can never have too much. As you collect material and fight monsters and get material from them, you will use them to build stronger weapons and armors, and may even use the most basic material to combine into items. Both weapons and armors have their own separate skills, giving them a set of variety, such as armor that increase your attack and evasion, or weapons that have a poison effect. As I said before, you do not capture Monsties during battle. In fact, you can create an entire team without battling for hours or even days. There are these random spawn points in the open world known as dens. There are 3 types of dens: monster dens, ever dens, and subquest dens. Ever dens are specifically placed dens that are used to collect bottle caps and other treasures and contain 1 egg with an awake monster guarding it. Once you finish the den, there is usually no reason to return. But you do you. Monster dens are the grind. You have many types of dens and will find yourself reloading the map for the best dens later in the game for stronger monsters. Subquest dens. While not known for having rare eggs, these are only found when doing a side quest and can contain a challenging monster. Basic monster dens are the basic of the basic. They contain the lowest chance of finding rare eggs. Basically, if you see a rare egg, just go. That's the best you will get most of the time because the chances of a rainbow rare egg is very low. Rare monster dens have a much higher chance or rare egg and rainbow rare egg. There are also specific dens. Specific dens is where the eggs are a guaranteed monstie. You can make these by making a monstie retreat in battle by filling certain conditions. There are 3 rarity types for eggs. The higher the rarity, the better the genes or skills. Basic, rare, and rainbow rare. And the heavier and better smelling the egg is, the better the stats will be when they are hatched. Your cat, ally, or palico will help identify them. When you collect the eggs, take them to your hatchery, and the monsters are yours. From there, you'll be able to do multiple things. Release them into the world, send them on exhibitions for experience or items, or use the rite of channeling to rip a gene out of the monstie and place it into another one. All abilities are transferable, no matter the attack type or element. The way the gene board works is there is a row of 3x3 and you want to use the bingo method of placing skills. Putting 3 power skills in a row will yield you a higher attack percentage. Putting 3 power skills in a row with the same element will yield even greater and higher attack percentage than just 3 power skills. And the more you make, the higher it gets. If you're a Pokemon player, you may be used to the rehatching skills till you get the best EVs and stats. In Monster Hunter Stories 2, it's been changed up to hatching high value eggs and putting the strongest combination of skills into a bingo. There is even a way to check what monsties are guaranteed to have what gene skills you want, and you can go hunting for them. You can think of it as, instead of leveling up a Pokemon with the best stats, you're leveling up a Pokemon with the best abilities, increasing the amount of abilities instead of just increasing the amount of stats. This is what the grind of the game will be. Enter a den, grab the egg until you like the one you want, hatch it, check its skills, keep it or sacrifice, rinse, repeat. You can do this without finding a single monster. Allowing all monsters to have access to every other monster's skills opens so many doors for being creative. You can grab the first monster you stumble upon in the game and give it a boss monster skill that paralyzes and poisons, or give a super squishy monster so much health it can rival a tank. Creativity is a limit, that and 9 slots. Sadly, you cannot stack skills, such as Health Up XL and Health Up L. Though you can put them in the same bingo board, only the highest one will apply. They will not add up together. Here are some tips for you while playing throughout the story. Use your prayer pot. A lot of people might not know this at the beginning or even care if they're skipping through all reading. This is very important. The prayer pot will be your best friend when it comes down to later on the road. The way the prayer pot works is you get 2 types of buffs. The prayer buff, which lasts until you return to a village, and the time buff from tickets. Both have their own separate amount, and you can actually level the percentage of both as well. The more tickets you use, the higher the buffs. Level 20 is the max, so just keep throwing in the tickets that you don't plan to use. For me, I threw in any buy and sell because later on in the endgame, money is not an issue. Even in endgame, if you don't end up getting a high rank version of a monstie you want, you can still end up using that monstie. Just give it high rank skills. It'll be pretty powerful in its own way. It won't be as powerful as it would be as a high rank rainbow rare, but it will still become a viable monster either way with the right genes. Early on in the game, not at the beginning, somewhere in between chapter 2 and 3, you will encounter a monster known as Nargakuga. Nargakuga is the only monstie in the game with the sneak ability. Sneak allows you to go invisible where monsters will not charge at you, and you'll be able to get around finishing dens with the greatest of ease. Every other skill in the game is essentially useless in the sense that they're used only to collect treasure chests. Rarely are they used to actually traverse into other areas you cannot go to. Sneak, in my opinion, is probably the only ability that you will want throughout the entire playthrough. The multiplayer section has co-op missions and PvP to battle other people's monstie builds and rider builds. It's very fun and can end up giving you even more fun monstie gene build ideas. In PvP, you are unable to target the riders for attacks unless it's with the monstie. The first to remove 3 hearts wins. Co-op allows you to partner up with real people or AI for co-op only hunts that are not on the quest board. These quests require tickets and can be obtained later in the game. This part coming up has endgame spoilers, so if you don't want to know, you have been warned. After beating the story, you will unlock high rank. High rank includes monsties that have become harder versions of themselves, and they contain higher material for stronger weapons and armors. You will most likely be level 50 at this point, or very close to it. Not only will stronger monsters be available, but also more dens become high rank dens. Ores become armor ores or even talismans. High rank dens will have high rank monsters, and you will want to get these before fully challenging high rank monsters. These will have high rank monsters, and you will want to get these before fully challenging high rank monsters, because these monsters have higher stats than the lower rank monsters you collected on the journey, and they will have stronger versions of genes as well. You can toss your monsters or use them for exhibitions, or even sacrifice them for genes for your upcoming stronger monsters at the endgame. Also with the endgame comes the Dragon's Lair, a series of floors that you will fight through and find monsties not found in the wild or rare dens. These are rare and super powerful monsties that will make going through not easy, but has so many floors you can get yourself lost in the constant grind of building monsties, traversing the lair, and getting more awesome monsties. There are some features that are essentially lacking and added in as just a little bit fluff for the sake of Monster Hunter and its fans, such as searching for tracks. Universally, I have not heard anything positive about this, and I myself have nothing really positive to say about it myself. The only thing I can really say is they were trying to add in something that did not need to be added in, and the issue with it is it feels so lazy the way they added it. All you're doing is essentially going into an area, and then when these bugs, these white bugs that are super light, show up, you just follow wherever they're pointing. My issue is, for some people who are colorblind, this game is very vibrant with its colors, and some of these will only go off in the day. So it's extremely hard to see where they're pointing every time you're searching for them, for these powerful monsters, or just doing this small little mission thing. Thankfully, it's not as prevalent in the game as you think. Throughout the story, you do it twice, maybe. In the end game, you'll probably be doing it 5 to 6 times, dependent on how many deviants or even elder dragons there are. One other flaw I can think of is, even though the monstie skills, roaming skills of course, aren't very needed, only Nargakuga's Snake in my opinion, there are some monsties that actually could have had a certain skill. Some monsties that could have had swim or even climb. Some monsties that could have had dash or actually swim. A Mizitsune that only has dash but cannot swim. It makes no sense. A giant boulder of a monster that cannot smash rocks. It feels like they were really restricting what every monster can do, and I can understand that. But what they could have also done is, in the end game, actually unlock the abilities that they're able to do. Other than that, the rest of the game is actually phenomenal. The way the battling works just feels fantastic. PvP, it is very fun. Although I do not play PvP all that much, I am very excited to see what people build and see how people change up their own rider builds versus their monster builds. I, in my own opinion, think if you like Pokemon, you should give this a try. If you're interested in Pokemon, you should give this a try. But also, if you like Monster Hunter, definitely give this a try. In fact, I'm sure you already have. The battle cutscenes are just amazing to watch. To see all the monsties use their own special skills and attacks, it just feels so great to see that we can finally have a game where we're not just killing monsters, that we actually get to partner with the monsties that we love. Because in the Monster Hunter series, we hunt the ones we love. In the Monster Hunter stories, we fight with them. This is Monster Hunter Stories 2, a worthwhile game to get lost in for the sake of making your dream monster team and fighting with them. Thanks for watching.